Welcome to another episode of Follow the Brand. I am your host, Grant McGaw, CEO of 5-Star BDM, a 5-star personal branding and business development company. I want to take you on a journey that takes another deep dive into the world of personal branding and business development using compelling personal story, business conversations, and tips to improve your personal brand. By listening to the Follow the Brand podcast series, you will be able to differentiate yourself from the competition and allow you to build trust with prospective clients and employers. You never get a second chance to make a first impression. Make it one that will set you apart, build trust, and reflect who you are. Developing your 5-star personal brand is a great way to demonstrate your skills and knowledge. If you have any questions for me or my guests, please email me at grant.mcgaugh, spelled M-C-G-A-U-G-H, at 5-star BDM, B for brand, D for development, M for masters.com. Now let's begin with our next 5-star episode on Follow the Brand. Welcome to the Follow the Brand podcast. I am your host, Grant McGaugh, CEO of 5-Star BDM, where we help you to build a 5-star brand that people will follow. Ever wonder what truly separates fleeting success from a legacy that lasts? It's really those viral moments that everyone chases. It's more about showing up day after day and building something very real. Today's guest embodies this perfectly. Now imagine this. You are a Division III college basketball player. Most people would say that's where the story ends, but for Dre Baldwin, it was just the beginning. He turned that humble start into a digital empire, amassing over 100 million views. What really caught my attention wasn't luck or a viral hit. This man has put out content every single day since 2005. Basketball tutorials turned into mindset coaching, then high-level performance training. And the way Dre reached out to me on this show shows exactly what he teaches. No cold email, no generic pitch. Instead, he sent me a personalized video explaining why he wanted to be on the Follow the Brand show. Now that's someone who doesn't just talk about personal branding, he lives it. And in this episode, you will learn why consistency beats virality, how to transition careers without starting over, and how to build a brand that stands the test of time. And if you have ever thought, how do I build something that lasts? Or what's next for me? You are in the right place. Let's jump into my conversation with Dre Baldwin, the man who turned basketball drills into digital excellence. I am Grant McGaugh, and this is the Follow Brand podcast, where we are building a 5-star brand that you can follow. All right. Welcome, everybody, to the Follow Brand podcast. I am your host, Grant McGaugh. We're going to keep it right here in downtown Miami. We're going to talk to Dre Baldwin. I love Dre. We were just chopping up, just found out that he's right here local. I'm like, what? You're here? Oh, okay. We're going to have a great conversation. Now, just a little bit of background story. Dre found me, and when he looked, he said, I'm always looking for different podcasts I think, aligns with my vision, my mission, my values, and the things I'm trying to get across to an audience. And we saw Follow Brand, and then he sent me a customized video inviting me, say, hey, check me out, Grant. I want to be on your show. And I went, man, this guy went through all of that for him to become a guest on the Follow Brand podcast. We got to have a conversation. So, Dre, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me on, Grant. I'm excited to be here and glad that reach out worked.
Hey, it worked like a professional. You talk about branding, right? Personal brand, how to build your personal brand. You just showed a tactic and a technique. First, I got to see who you were, not just a cold email, but actually your authenticity, what you're about, why your why came across in a story like within 2 to 3 minutes of why you like to be in the show. You can never get across that kind of impact via email. Just won't happen.
Right.
And in person, yeah, I probably get, but that's the next best thing. So I want you to tell the audience just a little bit more about you and why you chose Follow Brand to be on this show.
Sure. So I come from the city of Philadelphia. I've been down here in Miami for since about 2008. I was always playing sports growing up. I eventually got into basketball around age 14, which is pretty late if you're trying to go play a sport like in college or pro. I only played 1 year high school ball, walked on to play Division III college ball, which is the third tier of college sports. In other words, not a level that produces pro players. Got out of college, wanted to play pro, but nobody was calling my phone. So for a year after college, I worked a couple just regular jobs, worked at Foot Locker, worked at Bally Total Fitness, which is now out of business, but not because of me. I sold a lot of memberships for them. But then in 2005, so give everybody a timeline here, 2005, I started my pro basketball career via going to this event called an exposure camp. It was like a job fair for athletes. You basically pay to go to this destination event and try to prove that you're good enough to play pro. I went to one of those events, played pretty well, and I leveraged that experience to get myself an agent. Agent got me my first job, and I played professionally overseas for 9 years in 8 different countries. First place was in Kaunas, Lithuania. And at the same time, in 2005, I started publishing videos to this new website called YouTube. And they said you can put as much video up as you want for free. And I started doing that. Started putting basketball videos up, just the basketball audience. So my first 5 years online from 2005 to 2010, just a bunch of basketball players learning how to play basketball from me. Not because they were looking for me, they were just looking for basketball, and I happened to be there. And around that time, about 2009, 2010, found myself unemployed from basketball. Phone was not ringing. But at the same time, I had this little audience being built on the internet. And I've always been kind of a closet internet geek, Grant. A lot of people don't know that. So I started finding ways that I can make money on the internet through basketball. So I just wanted to combine those 3 things: money, the internet, and basketball. And that's when I started to build out more of what we now call a personal brand. So that's when I started to write more articles, write more blogs, make videos on a consistent basis, more intentionally. My audience grew. I started selling products. The first product I sold was $4.99. So it's not like I just blew up out of nowhere. I just started selling little cheap products to basketball players. Well, not cheap, but valuable, low-cost products to basketball players. Self-publishing became a thing, so I started writing books. And then I found out, well, if I can take this idea and turn it into a product, well, I have more ideas. Now I can do this. I can do this forever. I came to realize that intellectual property, a phrase that I didn't know back then, I could leverage that longer and stronger than I could leverage my physical property, my physical ability to run and jump 40 inches in the air. You can't do that forever. But having ideas and turning them into products and making money from it, I could do that forever. So that's really what I started focusing on. Good thing is the phone rang again. I kept playing until 2015, but during my last 5 years playing basketball, I was also building my brand at the same time. And even to this day, Grant, if somebody sees me in the mall or in the street when I'm walking my son, they know me from YouTube. They don't know me because I was a pro basketball player. They know me from the internet. All right. So the internet, thank God for the internet, because that's really what led to my brand being what it is. And that's long story short. And I'm sure we'll get into some details here. That's how it happened.
No, for sure. Because that kind of intentionality is so important, because I think 2015, YouTube has been around for a long time, and some people have been utilizing a lot longer than others to create opportunities and to actually get into e-commerce and to sell certain things, but most importantly, to sell themselves and what you do. Think Gary Vee, right? Gary Vee said, hey, I started doing, his father owned this it's a liquor store, basically. They sell wine, and he said, you know what? This is a great way to advertise. It's free. Why not do that? And he grew his audience and was intentional about putting something out there every day. That was the process. And it sounds like you were doing something similar. And I love the fact that you knew, even before your basketball career what was ending, or what it would come to an end, that you leveraged yourself to a point where once you step out of that room and that door closed, you already had a furnished room already ready for you, called your personal brand, because you have been building it and you begin to have that entrepreneurial mindset that'll get you into another state of, as far as being able to support yourself and have a way to support your family. I think that's wonderful. I think a lot of people don't really understand the power of personal branding. I want to ask you this, because now you've lived it. What's your definition of a personal brand?
Personal brand that's a good question. The way I define it is how people see you. In other words, what you're about, what you represent. And when your name comes up, what's the first thing they think about? Or if they think about that thing, do they associate your name with it? That's what I see a personal brand as. So it's basically your reputation. But the interesting thing about it is that it can be very relative, because my reputation with you is different than my reputation with someone who's known me for 10 years, right? It's different. It varies depending on who the person is. So to some people, my reputation could be negative. They don't like me. And some people, my reputation can be positive. They do like me. And some people know me as a basketball guy. Some people know me as a business guy. So your personal brand is really just how other people see you. And then from our personal perspectives, it's what are you putting out there so that you're controlling that conversation as best you can. Can't always control it, but you would try to keep as much control as you can.
I love that. Because if you're following along this conversation that I'm having with Dre, you'll start to see that different platforms allow for different things to take shape. And that when you're in a smaller world, you can influence a sphere. Like I said, you were playing basketball. Obviously, someone that were following your basketball career or knew what you're doing over in Europe, they're going to follow. They know that particular Dre, right?
Yes.
And even the ones even in high school and before that, they didn't think, oh, Dre, professional basketball. Nah. No, he was no. He's like, yeah. So these different personas exist, but they're what I call smaller niche circles of experience.
Correct.
Once you step into that world of digital technology and amplification and social selling and digital media and leveraging as a tool for digital marketing for whatever reason it is, I call that amplification. Now you amplify who you are and you amplify what you're doing. So that small niche circle becomes very, very big. It has potential to go worldwide. You tell the audience now, because I don't think they realize how big your sphere of influence has grown since you started YouTube.
Wow, well, YouTube was really where it started. So the start was, I was blogging before I got on YouTube, but my blog never blew up. So YouTube is where the audience started to find me. But over all these years, the last 2 decades, my content's been viewed over 100 million times, whether that's written, audio, or visual, just digested 100 million times. And that's not counting all the times I've been pirated over in China. So we added China in, you can probably multiply that by 10. They got a lot of basketball fans. So I know my videos are on their websites, but I can't read Mandarin. So I see myself, but I don't see what it says.
That's interesting. Yeah. So here's the question. It's people like, why? But why? What happened? Do you feel as you went going through that process that you had, your videos were going viral, you had virality. Well, how did you get to that 100 million viewership? What do you think was happening?
Well, here's the interesting thing. I've never had a piece of content go viral. Not one. So the thing is, I've just put out a lot of content. So I put out content. I put out at least one thing every single day since 2005, whether that's written, audio, or video. And many times it's been all three. And there were times where on YouTube, for example, like you said, about 2015, there weren't so many people publishing quite yet. We started to hit critical mass around that time when people stopped watching YouTube and started making YouTube. But between 2005 and 2015, there wasn't a lot of competition, but there was a lot of audience. So I remember 2011, I was putting out 4 or 5 videos a day on YouTube, and they weren't cannibalizing each other because there were so many people watching the content that it didn't matter. So it's just been the consistency, Grant. It's always been the consistency. I put out probably 30,000 pieces of content. Never had anything just pop off immediately. Some are more popular than others, of course. But even on YouTube, I had some videos with over 1 million views, but that's over 1 million views in 10 years. It's not like 1 million views in a month. So I've never had that happen. I wish I did, but if it doesn't happen, you can still be consistent and build your footprint, build your digital footprint.
this is important. I want the audience to truly understand what you just said. Process, consistency, stick-to-itiveness, not looking to always to go viral, but always to get your message out there on the platform. Because I was just at lunch with another individual. I said, what would you rather have? Would you rather have a room of 100 people that can immediately buy what it is that you sell, your product or your service? Or would you rather have 10,000 people that barely know what you're doing on your YouTube? You choose, right? So what that question is, of all this time, how are you able to monetize?
Great question. Well, what you just said is a great metaphor for what I try to help people understand all the time is that you are better off with 10 dialed in buyers than 1,000 surface level freeloaders. And when it comes to selling stuff, let's say monetizing, well, the first thing I monetized was when YouTube got bought by Google, and now you can run ads. So that was the first money I made on the internet. My first check from Google/YouTube was for $110. And that was about 2009, 2010. The next thing was selling training programs to basketball players. And I had no marketing strategy. I never ran an ad. All I did was make a video on YouTube about, let's say, doing a crossover dribble. And then I said, well, I have a program for getting better at dribbling. Just go to my website and buy the program, click the link in the description. And that's how I started selling $4.99 programs. And we were selling those in volume because, again, I told you I was putting out 3, 4, 5 videos a day. And the videos were the feeder for sales. The next thing that I monetized, I started writing books, but books didn't really blow up. Most people don't make a ton of money off books. They just were an add-on. The next thing was I just started making bigger programs for higher prices. And that was really what I did. I did that for a long time. From 2009 up to about 2014, we did a lot of selling of a lot of programs just to the basketball players as I was doing it, because I was still playing basketball at that time. And then after that, I started selling more mindset stuff like courses, and then people started asking me, do you offer coaching? I hadn't even considered being a coach still. I was doing a live stream on this app called Periscope. You remember Periscope?
Yeah, I do.
Yes, I was doing a live stream on Periscope. Somebody in the comments said, do you offer coaching? And I had never coached anybody. Of course, I said yes. And he was my first coaching client. And now coaching is the main thing that we focus on here in our program. So that's how we started to monetize, was just taking advantage of whatever it was that was right there in front of me.
See, and I think a lot of people, they're missing the boat when it comes like, oh, social selling. Yeah, I see people on the internet. I'm on Instagram or maybe it's Facebook and things like that. I see the ad, but I don't want to participate. And then I want you to take a page. You just go over to the NASDAQ. Just walk over there, the NASDAQ, and just take a look at what stocks are trading and who has the highest volume. And you're going to see small companies like, Microsoft, small companies like I'm just thinking of Uber, small companies like Airbnb, small, these little dinky companies that don't have really any product or service, but they have a platform, and they're making a ton of money like Amazon. And you start to realize, hey, this digital economy on these digital platforms are very, very real. And you need to start paying attention to these things, especially now as the financial world is starting to change with Bitcoin and things of that nature. And look at now, before we used to walk around with a pocket full of cash, your wallet. Now you just walk around with either a card, and that's being replaced by just your phone. The world is changing all around us. And those that know how to take advantage of it and leverage it will be the ones that will win in the long run. And it's still, digital marketing, I feel, is still in its infancy. Because there's still so many people that don't know how to leverage it to the fullest. Now, I want to understand more about this coaching. You said you're a coach now. So Coach Dre, talk to me about your coaching program.
Yeah, so it's funny. When I first was putting the basketball videos out, some players, because they're younger than me, they would refer to me as coach, even though I've never coached sports at all. I don't have the patience for coaching sports. But once I started talking more about mindset and basically extracting what works in the sports world and then translating it over to the business and everyday life worlds, that's when my audiences started to merge, and that led to the transition between sports and where I'm at now. So the first guy who asked me if I coached on Periscope, I said, yeah, and I didn't even know what to charge him. I charged him $500 and coached him for like 3 months, something like that. But as I came to just look at the business landscape, because the first thing I wanted to do when I stopped playing ball, Grant, was professional speaking. And I did a good amount of that, still do it to this day. But one of the things I didn't like about that business was that there's a whole other entity in control of your next paycheck. I'd rather me be in control and have people have a direct, personal, more intimate relationship with, such as in a coaching program where everything's in-house, as opposed to the speaking world where it's kind of outhouse, so to speak. And you got to keep calling people or they got to call you. And I just didn't want that to be the main thing. I still do it. I didn't want that to be the main thing. So then as I learned more about what I had to offer, and there's another thing about people who build brands is that we tend to discount and devalue our own knowledge and our own expertise because it's so normal to us. So when I started explaining mindset things, I thought everyone thought this way, because the thing like a mindset, Grant, unlike with, let's say, a physical tool, is that you can't see it, you can't count it, you can't measure it. Yep. So you can only assume the way another person thinks. So when I started talking about the way I thought, people would just say to me, I've never heard anybody explain discipline that way or confidence that way. And I realized that my real superpower, Grant, is my ability to take something that may seem complex and break it down to very simple terms and then explain it in a way that anybody can get it. I did that in basketball, and I do it with mindset. I do it in business. And that's the superpower that I started leveraging. And it fits perfectly into coaching, because that's really what coaching is about. It's not necessarily about having all the answers. It's about helping people ask the right questions. And that's what I do best. And when I can just have a conversation with someone, find out what their challenge is, what question are they asking, then I tell them, well, I get you asking that question, but how about we answer these questions over here? That'll actually help solve your problem instead of just addressing the symptom. So that's what I do as a coach. And the biggest thing we did there, the biggest change I made in my coaching, let's say over the last 2 or 3 years, was really just focusing on going high ticket in coaching. And that's really what's helped kind of push the coaching program, but we call it Work on Your Game University, was really help push that forward. Is just looking for ways that we can go high ticket, which means most people consider high ticket like $5,000 or more. And that's the area that I really start to focus more on. We still sell books, still have my basketball program's website up. Somebody wants to learn how to do the crossover move. And still books, courses, et cetera. But most of the stuff we do is under the consulting wing, which is the coaching.
Now, see, the audience is percolating. I can feel like, all right, Grant and Dre, I see what you guys are talking about, but I'm more of an introvert. I don't know if I can get out in front of the camera and promote, especially if I want to be an entrepreneur. Even in business, I have a career, and I truly believe people that are following the career, you've got to get out in front of things, because search and social is so prevalent in our society. That's the first thing that people are going to do. How do you coach someone who's a little reluctant or a little camera shy about promoting who they are and what they're about?
Great question. And the easiest thing I found is to give them a framework to use. So when they get on the camera, they are not just trying to figure out what to say. So what I help people do is come up with a framework. So if you're selling a product, then, okay, this is what you're going to explain. First, you're going to tell them who you are. Then you're going to tell them what the product is. You're going to explain why they need it. And then you're going to tell them how to get it. That's a very simple framework. Anybody can use that. But now when they turn the camera on and push the record button, they're not just frozen trying to figure out what to say. Now they actually have a process to follow. And I found, actually, I know for a fact, most human beings are very good at following rules if you give them rules. We've been following rules our entire lives, as kids, at school, at work. So if you just give people rules and say, follow this process, step 1, step 2, step 3, people are usually pretty good at doing that. So what I do is break things down, make it really simple. If you can just follow these steps, you can read English, then anybody can pretty much achieve their outcome. My job then is taking the stuff that I already know how to do, and I've done successfully, and deconstructing it in such a way that I could explain it to someone else. And the biggest challenge I find a lot of people have is that even though they've done a thing successfully, all the knowledge is up in their heads. And then when it comes time to kind of put it on paper, so to speak, it's not as easy as they thought.
Ready to elevate your brand with 5-star impact? Welcome to the Funnel Brand Podcast, your gateway to exceptional personal growth and innovative business strategies. Join me as I unveil the insider strategies of industry pioneers and branding experts. Discover how to supercharge your business development, harness the power of AI for growth, and sculpt a personal brand that stands out in the crowd. Transform ambition into achievement. Explore more at firestarbdm.com for a wealth of resources. Ignite your journey with our Brave Brand Blueprint and begin crafting your standout 5-star future today.
And that's one of my best skills, is being able to process out certain things.
I love that. That is it. They get writer's block, so to speak.
Yeah.
Right? Camera comes on, you freeze up. However, you already know what it is that you do and why it's important. And a lot of times when I'm talking to particular clients and individuals, hey, Grant, how do you're doing this podcast, you're always out there, you make it look so easy. Like, well, it's not so much that it's easy, is that what I have found, to your point. There's a couple of things I love what you just said. Now, I tell people this all the time. First of all, it's always great to have a guide or coach. It's going to get you where you want to go a lot quicker than just trying to do it by yourself. The other thing, what you said, so important, is that you have a process. You've got to have some kind of framework, and it's a proven framework for you to follow. Isn't it a lot easier if you're trying to go to your local mall that you know the directions of how to get there, as opposed to trying to figure it out and walk a few miles, and then eventually you'll get there, but it might take you a long time. So if you have a coach, and then you have a process or a framework, and then you've got to have determination and a will. You've got to be able to be consistently apply the knowledge. Now, what I found was that when I knew what I was talking about, you could throw me on anybody's stage. I don't care if there's 100,000 people on this. I will light it up, and I'm great. But if you start talking to me about something that I'm not that familiar with, I'm going to stumble, and I'm going to stutter, and I'm going to get nervous, and I'm not going to do as well. So you've got to know your subject and what it is that you are good at. I love how you said even earlier about, I know what my superpower is. And if you're in my lane, I'm going to go into that phone booth, and I'm going to come out as Super Dre, because you were in my superpower. You're right there. You got to know what those swim lanes really, really are. And when you know that, this is great advice I got from someone a while back. So important. He said, you know what, Grant, you are in the unique position to be a mentor for the person that you were 5 years ago, 10 years ago. So if you're able to mentor the person that you were 5 years, talk about those things, because there's someone right now is coming out of basketball, or they know they're about to get out of basketball. And wouldn't it be great that they can go and look at 30,000 different types of content that Dre has put out there and start to get their confidence and begin to understand these things? That's one thing I love about content. Is that it's not like sending out an email to someone or just having a conversation. So that content lives forever, for a very long time. You said that earlier. I put that content out there. I'll get 100 million views, but it wasn't just in a day. That's over time, but it's still there. Talk to our audience more about that the power of digital marketing and how it lives far beyond the real time that it took to create it.
That's a great question. And going back to your question you asked earlier about a brand, a lot of people would say your personal brand is just what Google says about you. And that's the way many people look at it, because if you just hear of a person that you never heard of before, what's the first thing you're usually going to do? You're going to Google them. Or if you're using a social media app heavily, maybe you'll look them up on that app, Instagram, LinkedIn, whatever you're using. But it's what the internet has already basically indexed about you. And the great thing about creating a whole lot of content as I have is that when you look me up, you're going to see stuff that I said from my own mouth about me, and it's coming from me. And usually we put stuff out on our own that we want people to see and we want them to know about. So I was just talking about this the other day on a live stream. If someone was to write a bad article trying to take me down, it wouldn't get to the front page of Google because all my content is going to bury it and nobody will ever see it. So that's the good thing about creating content, is that when people look you up, they're going to see only the stuff that you made about you. So just put out good stuff about yourself, use your name in it, And when somebody looks your name up, they're just going to see you. Or they'll see, let's say this interview comes out and my name's in the title, that's going to show up. But this is usually going to be something positive about yourself. So that's the great thing about building that digital footprint, because it builds credibility. The first thing people want to know, like if I'm in the elevator and somehow it comes up that I write books, or maybe I have a book in my hand, they say, you write books. I say, yeah, I write books. And what's the first thing they ask you? Are you on Amazon? Right? And they look you up on Amazon, and Amazon is a search engine. So if they see you on there, then it gives you credibility immediately because you're in a place that they look for as credible. So that's the great thing about creating so much content, is that it speaks for you, and it gives people, it's like a library of material that people can go through of yours, even when you're not around to talk to them. And the third thing is, especially in the world that we're in now with technology, like artificial intelligence it's here and it's coming at the same time, is that we can, in so many different ways now, repurpose content from 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 6 weeks ago into other formats, because the same material is worth a different amount when it's put into a different format. See, a YouTube video is worth this amount, but if I take that YouTube video, get AI to transcribe it into text, and then make it into a book, now it has a whole different price. The YouTube video is generally free. A book costs money. If I take what's in that book and make it into a course, the course usually is expected to cost more. So it's the same material, but the value of it is different just because of the package that it's in. And there are some people who will see my YouTube, but they won't read the book. And there's some people who read the book, they don't see the course. And there's some people who only want the course because they don't want to watch YouTube. So there's so many different ways that you can use things when you embrace the technology, as you said, like what's going on digitally. And I know a lot of people are resistant to this stuff, but I suggest you get unresistant, or you team up with somebody who is not resistant, because the opportunity is really huge and is going to allow people like ourselves who have a ton of content to do so much of what we already have, let alone creating new stuff. So much we can do with what we already have. And I'm talking monetizing, not just content creation.
100%. The repurposing of content, of intelligence. Data, a lot of times people, because I've been in information technology 25, long time, been in that world. Data typically is reactive. It's in the past. It's in the rear view. It's like, hey, Dre, you did a double, triple last night on the court, man, just light it up. That is what he did last night, right? So it's in the past. It may be an indication of what he may do in the future, or it may not, because the future has not actually come yet. So we're always in the present, moving into the future, understanding the past to make better decisions. That's where we're trying to get to, right? So understanding data and where it's at, it gives you a better roadmap, but it's up to you to be creative, because you can create a different outcome, right? The data might say you're going down the road at 50 miles an hour and you're going to pass a certain tree. That's only if you stay straight. Mm-hmm. If you deviate from that, you get a different outcome. Understand that realization should tell you how to create a different future for yourself. So if you don't like the path you're on, if you don't like the path that you live, and you're looking at your current state, and you get a feeling that, hey, I'm running into that same tree that I just passed, how do I then dip and change course? Digital platforms is a great way to do that. Because I think about Dre, like, all right, yeah, you're doing great. And first of all, I'm going to applaud you for not giving up and living out your dream and becoming a professional basketball player, right? That took a lot of moxie, took a lot of grit, and then you did that. But you also had the realization, I can still dribble real well, but I know this is a finite path. I know that in the future, I can't keep jumping at 40 inches, as you would say. That's going to change because of physical reality. However, your mental state and what your intelligence is, you can leverage that to do other things. And you have the moxie and understanding to do that even early on, right? So you can even talk to an individual right now, like, how do I change my path? Because you don't have to just stop doing what you're doing. My career is over. I'm done playing basketball. What do I do now? Into something different. You are an example of that. You are doing that at a high level, and you've got a lot of memory muscle into it right now. A lot of great memory muscles. So you know what? I can repurpose these things, and I've been doing it for a long time. So many different ways. You probably loved when AI really became more mainstream, Because it would take a long time to take something like a YouTube video and then dictate it, right? And then have someone transcribe that into a book could take a long period of time. Or of course, he's like, wow, well, that's 90 days, 6 months. Now you're doing it in days instead of months.
Right.
Understand AI, what its capabilities are, and how you can then leverage who you are and what you do to the highest levels. I want you to help us talk to us about how you utilize your personal brand to create business opportunity. Walk us through your process of doing that.
Well, one of the things we already talked about, that's the content. So just continually putting content out there, you make yourself findable and you make yourself discoverable. And the great thing about creating a ton of content as well, especially when you're doing something intimate like coaching, is that people don't usually sign up for a coach from a 1-minute Instagram ad because they don't know you. They don't know what you're about. They got to get a feel for who you are. Good thing about creating a lot of content is that people can get a feel for who you are just by going through your content on their own. And then by the time they show up to be interested in your coaching, they already feel like they know you. And I've had many people over the years tell me they feel like they know me, even though they never met me, because they've gone through so much of my material. So it kind of breaks the ice. That's what content does. It breaks the ice, and it's free for you to create, and it's free for the consumer to consume, so they can get a taste and a feel for everybody out there and then pick who they like. So that's one of the best things about it. The other thing you were asking, you said how to use a personal brand to get business opportunity. Well, one of them is the findability. You want to be findable. And another one is it lends credibility. So even if I'm the one making the outreach, I'm making the outbound call, when someone gets a message from me, they're going to say, Dre Baldwin, who? Never heard of this guy. They're going to look me up and they're going to see, oh, this guy's credible. Wow, he has all this. He's done all that. He's talking over here. He has followers over here. That credibility does matter. Now, while social media followers are what we call vanity metrics and you can't pay bills with them, it still does lend credibility to your name when you have them. I'm not saying you have to have them, but if you do have them, I wouldn't be shy about it because that lends credibility to your name when you have it. And then the other thing when it comes to creating business opportunity is also there's collaboration. So right now there are people in your audience, Grant, who've never heard of me before, probably most of your audience, but they're listening to this now and they're like, okay, I like this Dre Baldwin guy. He's interesting. You know what? I'm going to keep listening to Grant, but I'm going to add Dre to the list of people who I pay attention to. So that collaboration allows you to mix, it allows other people's audiences to also become part of your audience. And the good thing about content creation is that we're not competing because it's not like that one of your fans starts listening to me, they have to stop listening to you. So we all benefit from that process and creating the business opportunity. And then, of course, as I said, we still go out and do outbounds. I mean, I look forward to the day when 80% of my business comes from incoming calls, and I just got to pick which one I'm going to take. But we still do a good amount of outreach. I still send out emails. We still send out text messages. I still create content. I still make cold calls to this very day. Still get people emailing us back mad because we won't stop emailing. We still do that stuff, and that's just in my bones. It's in my nature that I'm not going to sit around and wait for the phone to ring. The phone's not ringing. I'm ringing some phones. The door's not knocking. I'm knocking on some doors. So that's just the hunter. You got to be a hunter if you're going to be an entrepreneur. That's just the game.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love how you just stated that. So I want people that they feel like, oh, I got to stop doing what I've been doing in order to do this. And social selling is what I call that. You know, when you're using digital marketing, that's top of funnel. You've got to put this on top of your funnel, right? To drive your car faster. You still got to do those other things. You know, like you just stated, you know, the emailing and the phone call and the physical touch. All those things are still very important, but you've got to add this component on top of it. Now, I'll talk you through the exact scenario of how I came to know Dre Baldwin. I talked about it a little bit earlier in this conversation, but I want you to understand, people, is that what he did was he sent me an email, and in that email, like, hey, Grant, because he did some research, he said, love your show, follow brand. It's like something that I really would like to be a guest. This is who I am. And he started giving me his metrics. Hey, I've had 100 million downloads. I've done this. I've been on YouTube for 10 plus years. I'm an ex-pro basketball player. And I'm like, what? And I made a video for you. I'm like, video for me? Like, what are you? So then I hit the link and there he is. I get to see him just like you're seeing him now. And he's talking about me. And I'm like, he didn't make the video for everybody. It's a private video. It's made just for me. And it talked about my show, talked about why he really wanted to be on the show. He thought it was very important. And I completely agree with what he said. It's the commingling of audiences. A lot of people in his world follow brand. Grant McGaw, not familiar with who's this guy? What's this about? Right? And vice versa. Because now all his followers, my followers, they start to come together. But the point is to have value, that you share value. He shared his values with me, and he shared the value that he was gaining from being on my show and knowing who I am. And then he just took a shot, like, you know what? Maybe he looks at it, maybe he doesn't. I don't know. Everybody gets a lot of information thrown at them. I think there was a stat that said something like we get 80,000 different micro messages every day from advertisement. We don't even, so we're desensitized from a lot of different stuff. So you get an email from somebody that you do not know. Typically, you'll probably delete it. I don't delete it. But if you're very specific and there's something, and this probably just showed up in my little preview, right? You get an email, you can just look at their preview without even opening it. You get an idea, and it caught my attention, and then it continued to get my attention. And then it showed value in the beginning, and there was no, what was he asking me to do? He's asking me simply to be a guest on my show. That's, I think I can do that. Why not? Because does he check all the boxes for me? Does he know about personal branding? Yes, he does. Does he know about entrepreneurship and business? Yes, he does. Does he have a good personal story that I think will resonate with my audience? Well, yes, he does. You know what? Why not? Why not? So here we are with Dre Baldwin. I want my audience to truly know exactly what they will gain by working with you. Talk to my audience.
Sure. Well, I appreciate you breaking down how all this came to be, first of all, Grant. And to answer your question, what we do here is we focus on three specific things in order. That is high-level performance done consistently to produce results. And one of the things that I tell people all the time is that we are in a performance and results-based business. The business that we're in called life, and your career or your business is based on your ability to perform and produce results. When you produce results, you get rewards. And rewards are money, followers, fame, likes, happiness, hugs, whatever it is that you want. So that's what our business is based around, those pillars. And the way that we do that is through taking the tools to help athletes get to the top 2% of the sports world and translating those tools over to the business world and to your everyday life. And then we have pillars that do that, such as mindset, strategy, systems, and accountability. And then it goes into all the details, books, courses, coaching, et cetera. We have a lot of different methods through which we do it. But the bottom line, if anyone wants to, this is an elevator pitch level thing, performance, consistency, and results. That's what we're about.
I love that. And there's a lot of athletes or former athletes here in the South Florida area.
Yeah.
There's no shortage of potential clients for Dre Baldwin without question. And I know you talked about you have children now. Children right now are heavily immersed in media, social media, that type of thing. And they're consuming a lot of information. Some bad, some good. Some will say it's more bad than good. How do you, if you were coaching your child, right, and about utilization of social media, what would you tell them?
Well, my son's only 2 years old, so he can't quite understand it yet. But when he's not going to have a device until he's probably 15, 16, maybe something around there. So keeping him off the screens. I think everyone, the experts, so to speak, on childhood rearing and people who know things about the internet say there is no positive to it. It's a drug. And people are addicted to these things, and adults as well. I'm not just talking about kids. We are addicted to these devices and addicted to these screens. So what I would tell him about using social media when he's old enough to understand it and appreciate it is it depends on who he wants to be. If he wants to be a public figure, then you have to be in the public. You got to be somewhere where people can find you, they can see you, they can hear you, and get a feel for you. And if you don't want to be, then be careful, because anything you put out there can and will be used against you, as they say. So you just got to be careful what you put out there, depending on what kind of life you want to live, because once it's out there, you can't take it back.
100%. Oh my God. we're right now, and I'm going to say right now, today is September 20th, 2024, just so everybody gets some context around time. And what happened just now is that a Republican GOP gubernatorial candidate running for governor, no big deal, big guy. It looked like he's, going to be a top candidate, and he's a big candidate in the party. And then they just leaked the story, I think it was today, that he had some social media comments on a certain site like 10, 12 years ago. It's a long time. It wasn't like last week, a long time ago. And now they have this information because I tell people all the time, it's public knowledge. It's in the public. It's not private. So whatever you're putting out there in the social world, whether it's LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, whatever it may be, it's public. So if you don't want that information, I'll date myself, like in the newspaper, because you take it out there, you're publicizing it. If you wouldn't want that written about you in the newspaper, don't put it out on social media, because there'll be a point in time, someone's going to look at it and get an idea about you, whether you still have those views or you don't. They're going to assume it because you wrote it. Did you not write this? Yeah, I did. Then you had these views. Yeah, well, I did, but I've grown. This. So that could cost you a job, cost you a business opportunity, and it could decompress your brand very, very, very quickly, because a court of public opinion is ruthless. So you've got to know. And I think you're a person who's curated their information. You've made sure, and I love how you said that earlier about, I already know what you're going to see when you Google my name. I did the same thing. Google works for me. So what do you mean, Grant? Because I already know what you're going to find. You're going to see my LinkedIn. You're going to see my website. You're going to see different podcasts that I've done or that I've been on. You're going to see different awards that I have. And all that's going to come right at the top of the feed, because those are the things that it looks for first. So if you put something out there like on your Facebook that's negative and that still has traction, it's going to come up first. Now, I don't know exactly how they did this on this particular individual, but it has caused him a lot. It'll probably, tank his candidacy, and it's gone. That's something that was 10 years ago. So think about what Dre just said. He's been doing this since 2015. And I'm going to go on a limb and say, I'm pretty sure that he's very intentional about the information, and the videos that you're putting out there for the last 10 years are very about his brand, about his business, about being educational, that he's adding value. And those are his pillars of his brand identity. Would you like to add to that?
Yeah, so it's actually been 20 years. So I started in 2005. So a lot of it was basketball related up until about 2010. But yeah, you're 100% correct. And with that politician that you mentioned, he probably wasn't thinking he would be in the position that he's in when he was writing that stuff, 10, 15 years ago. And when you step into certain realms, another thing to understand, whatever realm you step into, you get into politics, half the people don't like you. So they're looking for something to use against you. So you got to decide what lane you want to run in, because you run into that lane, then again, you just set yourself up for half the people to try to knock you down. And the higher you go, the more they're going to look, and they're going to find whatever they can. They're going to use it against you. So again, he probably wasn't thinking about that back then, but now he has it's probably going to end his career politically, at least as far as ascension. He's probably not going to ascend any further because that happened. So it doesn't make him a bad guy. It just means anything you say can and will be used against you. That's just the way the internet works. So what I would say to that is, again, that curation, knowing what you have out there. And if there's something out there that you don't like, it's not like you can make it go away, but you can do your best to kind of bury it by putting more stuff out there. So that's basically the way you beat the game. That's all I would say.
Right.
Yeah.
That is so important. Very important. I want everyone to understand, especially our younger individuals. Remember, this is a public forum. So just be very careful about what you're putting out there. You can't always take it back. Oh, can I get some take backs on that? Like, you don't always get some take backs on that. You can't just apologize a lot because the information is right there. So be very careful about, especially when you put your point of view, certain opinions, if they're very strong opinions, just be very, very careful about that. I want to ask you this because I'm curious, right? You're curious because you've got a lot of content. You've been on a lot of different shows. How do you like now? You've been on the follow brand. How do you feel?
I feel excellent. I feel great that we're having this conversation here. Met a new person in business who I previously didn't know. And now some of the people in your audience, hopefully, they decide, hey, they like Dre Baldwin, and maybe they'll come listen to a thing or two that I have to say. And then once this comes out and I share it with my audiences, they'll come listen to you and your future interviews and get a taste for what you're doing as well.
That's what collaboration is all about. I feel the exact same way. I want to make sure that audience knows, and they got to know, how to contact you, right? I think they know the why. Why do they want to contact? I think we've done that. I think we kind of understand what that's about. But they need to understand the how and the why. So tell us how to contact.
How to contact me? You can just go to workonyourgameuniversity.com. There you can see some case studies, testimonies of people we are actively working with, have worked with in the past, and maybe you could be the person we work with in the future. And then as far as social media, all of you know how to use that. So pick your favorite application, put my name in, type my name in, Dre, D-R-E, Baldwin, and I'm very easy to find. All my profiles are public. So whichever one you like, just look my name up. I'm right there.
All right, man, this has been wonderful. Thank you for being on the Follow Brand Show. I encourage your entire audience to look at all the different episodes of Follow Brand at 5-Star BDM. That is the number 5. That is Star BDM. That's for branddevelopmentmasters.com. Thank you again. And I will definitely have to come down and maybe we'll shoot some hoops down there when I get down to Miami. You never know.
All right, stand still only. I'm not running and jumping, but yeah, we'll stand still hoops.
Me and you both, we'll play a game of horse. How about
horse? That? Exactly. Yeah, horses are good. You got it.
Sounds great. Thank you again.
Yeah, thanks, Grant.
Thanks for joining us on the Follow Brand Podcast. Big thanks to Full Effect Productions for their incredible support on each and every episode. Now the journey continues on our YouTube channel, Follow Brand TV series. Dive into exclusive interviews, extended content, and bonus insights that will fuel your success. Subscribe now and be a part of our growing community, sharing and learning together. Explore, engage, and elevate at Follow Brand TV series on YouTube. Stay connected, stay inspired. Till next time, we will continue building a 5-star brand